We're supposed to learn about this. That criminal man, Buhari, Muhammadu Buhari, he don't die. See, I'm alive today. I thank God. God, thank you for my life today. Criminal Fulani man that is with some Yoruba, with some stupid Yoruba people that gang off and come to my house middle in the night. They try to take my life, but God said no. If God say yes, nobody can say no. God said no. See life.
Why the exact number is difficult to pinpoint, the Yorubas made multiple attempts to reclaim Ilorin from the Fulanis after it fell under the control of the Fulanis. But such efforts were ultimately unsuccessful. The Ilorin was previously an ancient kingdom or city of the Yoruba race. But eventually, in the course of time, due to the antecedents and the happenings, the betrayal and the sellouts by one of the Yoruba's illustrious sons, because of the quest for greed, for power, and eventually sold out what is today known as Ilorin under the rule and control of the Emirate. As it stands today, the Fulanis are the ruler of Ilorin. After several efforts that is considered ultimately unsuccessful, Ilorin remains under the whips and caprices of the Sultan of Sokoto, the head of the Emirate Council, as far as the Fulani caliphate and expansionist agenda is concerned. So what is definitely happening today shouldn't be seen as a surprise. How do Ilorin eventually fell under the control of the Fulanis? Of course, we all, majority of us, are familiar with the story that in a bid to remain relevant within the political sphere or to control the kingdom or the dynasty, the F0UGHT, who is the armor bearer or the commander or chief of defense staff of the Alaafin of Ibadan or your states, eventually desire and cultivate the intention to rule over the empire or his own domain, eventually invited the Fulanis to assist him to fight the authorities, and eventually they did. They led ambush, they dislodged the powers that be, and eventually took over, but such never lasted as anticipated. With time, the Fulanis that were invited, of course, had to settle. Some portions of land was given to them, and eventually they settled down, begin to replicate. Over time, they become more populous than the indigenes of Ilorin, and they allow the intermarrying and the rest of them, marriage affinity. As time goes on, their population eventually outweighs that, with, of course, outweighs that of the Yorubas. I know what happens next. Now that we are more in popularity, you cannot continue to preside over us. We will not allow you to preside over us because it is perceived to be a taboo for a supposed infidel or a Yoruba man to preside over the Fulanis. Now, the agenda of expansion and exclusive conquest begin to play out. They eventually have to take over the domain of rulership, and replace the Obaship with the Emirates. Now, it is only the Fulani that can assume that rulership position. Up to today, Yes, there have been several or multiple attempts by the Yorubas to reclaim Ilorin, but they failed. Why did they fail? And what does that portend to us today? Just as we are hearing that one of the notorious kidnappers, known as Sarikin Fulani, Abdul Kadir, that was allegedly, of course, indicted of kidnapping syndicate and detained by the security operative today, according to the Sahara reporters, is about to be released because high-profile government functionaries are bidding, working on the ground to lobby for their release. Do you know what that means? You know, Sunday Igboho fought against the incessant and dastard killings of the Yoruba indigenes in their own ancestral homes, often being overrun by the Fulani militias who has been taking the people aback. Within the host communities, the people think they are living with their neighbors, but not knowing that these people are there for a different mission. Now, what does that mean? The Yorubas stands to lose Ilorin entirety forever. The Yoruba might definitely have lost. The chances is very minimal of reclaiming the land of Ilorin. These are where alien strangers came in because you invited them to help you, to assist you to dislodge the constituted authorities, and eventually you were enthroned, but you never enjoyed that. Over time, you begin to reap the seed of betrayal. For the very fact you betrayed your own people for your selfish interests and political gains, definitely you have to pay. The time came that they have to overrun the same Afonja, slaughtered him, and take over the dynasty. That is quite unfortunate. Of course, if we don't learn from history, history might definitely repeat itself. That is just the case. Now, in 2015, Tinubu and the other Yorubas have to work assiduously. They have to betray the cause of the southern interests and align with the Fulanis, with the north, to protect the Fulani agenda, to make them believe, according to Kayode Adeshino, according to Kayode Feni Kayode, or whatever is being called, that they have common affinity, they are in love with the Fulanis, and as such could build and intermarry with them, and that definitely happened. So they have to install a Fulani president as against that of the southern interests, just because they want to make an impression that they are still in alignment with the Fulanis. Well, I am not saying that that is not their choice or their right to do so, but we must understand very importantly what is going on. You know, Sunday Igboho, who stood against the killings of his own people, was eventually betrayed by his own people. Sunday Igboho was betrayed by the Yorubas. By the Yorubas, they said. Which Sunday Igboho also confessed that some disgruntled Yorubas who are driven by selfish interests wanted to assassinate him at the middle of the night. These are the same people he's fighting to defend, to protect their interests, to preserve and secure the ancestral heritage. Now, ever since Ilorin was lost, there have been several attempts by the Yorubas to reclaim their lost heritage, but they have failed. Every time they made such an attempt, they will, of course, they will be met with swift resistance, reinforcement by the Fulanis. The Fulanis will chase them out of their place and even expand their territory. Now, of course, Ibadan and some Iganga, Aziks and the rest of them, they were even bragging to eventually expand. Of course, the Emirates across the West. It is very important. And let's see these important informations. As we have said, that the Fulanis are still in control of the Ilorin up to today. You know what that means? Now, this is very disturbing development. When the people fail to learn from history, definitely they are giving history a chance to repeat itself. Now, my people do say that only Iberibe, only Hunihu, Adia Mambe Keren Kopa, Dana Izinaya. Only Hunihu, Adia Mambe Keren Kopa, Dana Izinaya. Now, top government officials secretly lobbying, seeking for the release of a man convicted or indicted of kidnapping, known or notorious for that, claiming that his life is being threatened within the Yoruba domain and the rest of them. Why Mazen Nnamdi Kanu, who has done no wrong, who committed no offense, is still being held behind the bars? And the same Igbo politicians, majority of them, conspiring to continue to keep him behind the dungeon, behind the solitary confinement. They are working day and night to make sure that Mazen Nnamdi Kanu do not come out. A man kidnapped, renditions against his fundamental rights was breached, infringed upon, seeking for justice. The same Igbo man or greedy Igbo politicians or selfish Igbo politicians are seeking for the continued or endless detention of Mazen Nnamdi Kanu so that they could remain relevant and continue to exploit the people. This is the picture, the character of an average Igbo politician who believe that the placenta is embedded in Nigeria. That is Nigeria that makes them relevant. Can you understand that? Why? On the contrary, you see the Fulani's top hierarchy lobbying, making every move to ensure that, even notwithstanding that Sarkin Fulani or Abdul Qadir was indicted, but they needed to, if it possible, through the back doors. Release him, escape him, let him escape. When it comes to the Igbo people, they will say, bring their own son, let them sacrifice him. You see, despite the Global Terrorism Index listing the Fulani militias as the fourth most deadliest terror cells or group in Nigeria, or in the world, instead, in the world. The Global Terrorism Index listed the Fulani militias as the fourth most deadliest terror group on the earth, in the world. You have never seen any Fulani man coming to condemn the activities. The activities is even less reported in the global stage. You have not seen any Fulani governor fighting them. You've not seen any Fulani politician speaking against them, including even Atiku. Is it L5? Who else will speak against them? You've never heard. Or they will come out and shout that it's insecurity, but they never point out that these are kinsmen, that what they're doing is bad. Rather, they will tell you that these are foreign Fulanis. They will try to cover them up. These are foreign aliens. Fulani is coming from all the way to Sahel, to Mali, from Mali and the rest of them. How do they infiltrate into the country? Why are they killing certain communities? Resettling in those communities, they have sacked or massacred the people. And yet we have a government that have not asked questions. Why are they doing so? Look at what's happened in Benue State, where several communities have been sacked. And yet, there is a military base in one of those communities. People were attacked and they were asked, why are you here? You see people with militias with military camouflage killing the communities, and you fail to act. The response the local government chairman got was very embarrassing. We have not received the mandate to go after them. The same thing repeated itself in Jos just recently, about 2 days ago or so, where the governor, a state governor, almost cried, asking the sector commander, you said your people were launching operations against them, yet there was no casualty, no one was captured. For several hours they wreaked havoc, and there was no one that sustained gun bullets. No one was arrested. Wow, that is quite interesting. You see why the Fulanis are more coordinated. They believe in their common mission and objective. Some people might say, not the Fulani, not all Fulanis. How do we know? How do we differentiate them? You've seen a case where Balam Mohammed of Bauchi State said that Fulanis are global citizens. They have the right to occupy any forest belt, regardless of the region across Nigeria. They will import the Fulanis to now take over the several lands in this country. Nobody questioned him. A situation where the Emirate Council, Sultan of Sokoto, was alleged to have said that any attack against Boko Haram is an attack against the Almighty. It's more or less like fighting the Almighty Allah. Can you understand that these people understand what is playing out? How comes an attack against a terrorist group, when we call it terrorists, but they understand that these are Islamic militias. We in the South call them terrorists, but their objectives, their goal for setting them up is well defined. It's just that Nigerians and the Nigerian government is living in denial. The Boko Haram were asking for the Islamic State. They want to establish an Islamic State of a West African province. They understood the reason why they are calling on the government. They are fighting the instrument of the state. But the same southern politicians are deceiving themselves, wallowing in abject poverty. Now, if that purported statement is confirmed to be true, coming from the Sultan of Sokoto, that an attack against Boko Haram is fighting the Almighty Allah. Anyone fighting the Boko Haram is fighting the Almighty Allah. What is left? Why are people still holding brief or trying to defend the indefensible? Why are people still fighting against Mazen Nnamdi Kanu? Why are they still fighting against the indigenous people of Biafra? But an attack against the indigenous people of Biafra is a commendable thing by the Almighty. Almighty God will like it. Anybody that killed, invaded the indigenous people of Biafra's territory and wiped them off, he may be doing a good service, a good pleasure to God. But when you fight Boko Haram, you are fighting God, and it will not be happy with you. You can now understand the reason why the reason why Nigerian military are handicapped. They are not succeeding, not because they lack the strategy, the manpower, but there is underlying factor that they're not telling Nigerians. Several communities have been overrun by the same Boko Haram. Some Nigerian territory has fallen in the hands of Boko Haram. They are collecting taxes, levying the people, running a parallel government, and still expanding their dynasty, their terrain. They have given ultimatum to the Nigerian military. They have sacked several military bases in the north, and they are succeeding, well equipped, well strategized, and coordinated. They are not messing with, they are not hiding themselves. They have seen several Nigerian ammunitions, military wares, and the rest of them. That is its concrete, and sadly, some gullible, irresponsible southern politicians and people are still believing in one Nigeria when they have told you clearly that we are not an integral part. We are just mainly seeking for an opportunity to perfect the exclusive conquest and dominance. Anybody who told you that an attack against the terrorists, the word acclaimed terrorists, is an attack against God, what is it saying? The declaration of jihad, a declaration of war against the Nigerian states. And some people are treating this with kiss glove. Do you now understand why the Yorubas are seriously in a very serious problem? Somebody might ask, how? God forbid. They failed to learn from history, and history is about repeating itself. Now, in a more expanded form. And that will come like a storm. By the time they understand it, it will definitely be too late. So you can imagine somebody Igbo who was fought to the point he has to escape. In fact, he ran for his life, otherwise he would have been a dead man. Just the way Mazen Nnamdi Kanu was invaded in 2017 and the rest of them. He managed narrowly to escape. But somebody who has been involved in criminality, in alleged abduction, kidnapping, extortion of ransom, and the rest of them, a kingpin, kidnapping kingpin, is now the top government officials are through the back door trying to set him free. And the Yoruba definitely are watching.